to present I wouldn't call it study, but it's kind of review of state of conservation of Alizi traditional house in Georgia. The state of conservation is a very specific issue for us architectural conservation architects, and to better understand context of this interest, I have to mention that first of all, both were conservation architects. We graduated from this particular institution. That's why we're honored today to have a presentation here. And next, please. Both we are part of the initiative born several years ago within one of the large-scale practical restoration project, which we call Heritage Resource Center. And within this initiative, together with our colleagues, we have prepared several training, not only training, a kind of skill building, learning through doing the programs on wood conservation, on earth-based mortar, which is extremely important conservation tool in Georgia for all late medieval secular architecture, I would call. And we also try to work on structural analysis, because the problem just recently mentioned about improper structural stabilization of the buildings is extremely vulnerable and acute in Georgia. So within this, but we're conservation activists, so for us it's important what to preserve and how to do it. And in this regard, the Alizi mud brick houses never been kind of priority, let's say, for conservation architects in Georgia. But when you are working especially with earth-based mortar, you are constantly coming back to this unique building material. And that's how actually we, this particular program and donors gave us possibility to enrich our experience, first of all, within this program. So maybe that's why it will be sustainable as well. So that's what I want to stress. The methodology and objectives are listed here, and we thought to look on the scientific sources to evaluate the state of houses through field survey, because we had several visits only in eastern Georgia, to study technologies through documenting one selected site, to assess the structure's relevance, not the materials, but structure's relevance to the climate change adaptation challenges, and to think about the conservation or protection strategy if we may. So, as for the literature review, of course, it's logical that most historical and scientific sources related to these structures focus on ancient monuments and archaeological sites. Yeah, and all this very early typology of human settlements, which are spread all over the Caucasus, and not only Caucasus, and justly, because it's very important. But the only Georgian text dealing with the conservation of Alizi we found, it was Nino Kordzakhia online article, which was very useful for us, because she has overviewed all this archaeological, let's say, legacy, typology, the description of bricks produced in early ages, etc. She also deals with conservation principles, with challenges of the conservation of archaeological remains of adobe structures. So it was very important source for us. And next was the famous 5-volume book edited by Ivan Javapishvili. It's this is how I have translated it: resources for local industries and craftsmanship in Georgia. It's absolutely unique resource for us, conservation architects, because it is based on field expedition or visits of by ethnographs in 1935. Shortly to say, we found 2 very detailed interviews describing Alizi preparation in Ruisi and in Kaheti Kiziri as well. Yeah? I have tried to translate both of them within the study, but I have quoted here just one. It's a very detailed description of the process, including timing, including tools, etc. What we found interesting is that none of the mentions sand separately. And why I say it later, when we did one of the we did this analysis, laboratory analysis. It was also testified by this analysis that no additional sand was added to the material. I mean, it's not a big deal. It means the local soil is like adequate for the preparation of this adobe. But what was interesting for us, that interviews conducted by us during the field visits to the same villagers, yeah, or in surrounding areas, it proved that although Alizi preparation is no longer practiced by local residents, surprisingly accurate knowledge is preserved, and they can really recall the process which they know either from their ancestors or even they saw when they were young and children. As for the field survey, we had a field visits in Kartli region, Ruisi and Garejuari. Just very short observation of Kartli through these 2 villages. There are adobe buildings remained there, but they are scattered. You don't find some kind of urban fabric of adobe buildings. Mainly preserved structures are of the mixed building materials like stone, burned brick, and adobe. And very often the adobe is used as an infill. And the number of homes also features 20th century extensions made from cement blocks, and they are 2-storied, or there are single-story auxiliary adobe structures adjacent to the, like that one, yeah, adjacent to the main building. These are most likely earlier dwellings that were turned into the auxiliary structure after a new one has been developed. The brick sizes are more or less similar over as everywhere in Georgia: 2778, 3378 centimeters, and majority of them have very high pitch roof. What is interesting, there is no wooden structural elements inside. Wood are presented only as a interfloor framework and the framework of the roof. And the majority of the walls are, usually walls are built with 3 lines of the adobe brick, and mortar is adobe, and the plastering is adobe. I would move to the Gafeti now because we choose Gafeti as our case study, let's say. We have visited in Gafeti Zinobiani, Iliadzminda, and Kwemovakati. In Zinobiani, it's a very specific case because this is the village, the only village of Udi people in Georgia, and that's why it's unique for us. These are people who came from Azerbaijan in 1923 due to ethnic unrest there, and most importantly, this building you see on your screen is the only traditional structure remained in this building. No wonder that in this globalization period, people who are less than 300 families in Georgia today are facing danger of losing their cultural identity, etc. And it had provoked a movement of local young activists. Partly they are based in Tbilisi, but they are keeping their links to the village, and they really now work on preservation of their language and history, etc. It's a long story, but for them, this is the only historic building they have. And this is a strange building. It's a two-story, two-room structure. One is built with adobe brick. Another is built with wooden frame, but this wooden frame is rendered and plastered with adobe and limewashed from outside. So we decided to select this site for the conservation strategy, which I will talk later. And now, and it has quite interesting roof space, attic, I think. Nothing similar to other adobe structures in Georgia. And next I will move to Iliadzminda, because it's another like a case study, let's call it. Iliadzminda and Kwenumagaro, they are villages without visible borders, but they are so different. I brought this, I'm not sure it's really clear from this Google map, but Iliadzminda has a straight regulated street system. It's a 3 parallel long streets with a narrow land divisions among them, because and in Kwenumagaro, say a couple of sentences, situation is similar to the Ruiz. You can find adobe brick buildings. Mainly they are abandoned or they are used as an auxiliary structures. Mainly it's mixed or it's used on the second floor, and maybe that's the only small building we found. They are using as a living space. It's a very poor condition, but with a huge canopy, has some similarities with the Nopiani. In Alexeyevka, situation is different. Now it calls Ilyazminda. It's a former Alexeyevka. Once was founded by Molokhans. The people who were migrated from Russian Empire, because the Georgia was the Russian Empire at that moment as well, as a religious minorities. Yeah, I think they are everywhere in Caucasus, and they have villages everywhere in Caucasus, and they have started to build this particular village in 1850. That's what we know, and they were known for their simple lifestyle, strong communal values, and Pacific tradition focused on agriculture, preliminary wheat farming, cattle breeding, and etc. Yeah. But after the collapse of Soviet Union, many Moroccans in Georgia emigrated to Russia, even to US and Australia, Canada as well. As a result, the village was largely abandoned or repopulated by other ethnic groups, and there are only few Moroccan families now left in Ilyazminda, and some groups are in Tbilisi as well. Why Ilyazminda is important for us, conservation architects? This is the settlement where the majority of urban fabric is from the mud brick structures. So it's a whole village where we have mud brick houses, and with peculiar architectural design. Building technique is everywhere similar. At the three-line brick, if there is a first floor mud used, then the foundation is not deep but with stone. No wooden framework for walls apart from the interfloor and the roof. But there are some peculiarities in arrangement of the household. They are prolonged, they are amplified, and usually with a shorter facade looking to the street. The courtyard is also long. All subsidiary structures are also with adobe brick, and as a specific element you can find the pechka, which is the Russian stove, and the bath, usually banya, yeah, and also maybe, yeah, this blue building, although they don't live anymore there as a community, they take care of their prayer. This blue one is their prayer, so they repeatedly repair the building, and they come to gather there. And why also Ilyazminda is interesting for us? Balcony system is very much developed here. We also recorded one particular building where you have this Georgian tradition to have this overall balcony system, but the structure is similar as everywhere. Ilyazminda is different also because, hello Michael, we found that there are people living there who are restoring their properties today. And that's distinguished this village from other villages also. My cousin has bought this his property several years ago. He restored his house, but for me it was interesting also that he managed to hold several workshops for people who are interested to learn how to prepare and restore mud brick. As I know, Michael used recycled bricks, so he repaired bricks, but as well he learned and he knows how to prepare that. But even more interesting for me was later to learn that what was his surname? Jack Dragobov, whose ancestors, it seems, lived in Ilyazmin and then migrated to the United States. He returned back, and Michael has helped him to restore several auxiliary structures in his property, because the Jacob plans to establish some kind of youth hostel or Airbnb. So what we can see there, and I hope very much that tomorrow when you go to Ilyas Michael would be so kind to show his work, to show his courtyard, and maybe Jakob's house as well, because we had a communication. Yes, and what I would say that Ilyas holds a strong potential and resources to become a subject of urban conservation efforts. Then we just can briefly mention that despite its vulnerable condition due to lack of maintenance and improper treatment in many cases, effectively, Ilyas illustrates the environmental, socio-economic, and cultural qualities associated with sustainable adobe construction traditions. And let's just list them. I'm not reading this. What was important when we were interviewing local residents, they do understand all these qualities. But people get used to wait for somebody for the initiative. And I think Michael in this case could be a very good, how to say, factor for the start. And another is I was surprised, majority of houses are abandoned from late 80s, and they are still standing there. So there is something in the resilience of this structure which needs to be studied beyond the earthquake resistance, honestly, because it's strange. Anyway, and very briefly, just to touch upon initiatives towards the adaptation of Alizi structure in Georgia. I should mention Gibi Jareli. He's kind of a pioneer of the earth architecture, not Alizi as a building interior, but earth art. But of course, he was inspired with Alizi. But I have to mention two very interesting cases. One is the IDAF architect, Nana, she's not here, I have invited her. But they did several years interesting study of Alizi, and they tried to modernize and to create new modulars. Through laboratory analysis, they did some load-bearing tests, and they have their own concept, and etc. And this year, this modular will be presented on the Venice Biennale. Another is this wine cell in Grammy, were inspired by the Divija Eli and Korea Tera organization from France. The owner used the pressed earth, kind of earth panels, which is not tradition. At least we could find it. I don't think we have this tradition. Anyway, there are very interesting initiatives which will be continued, I hope. And as for the conservation strategy, this is the last recommendation, finding everything for us. These are iconic typologies of Georgian vernacular architecture, and to be honest, we don't have conservation strategies. So to be realistic now and to go the classical way to tell our field politicians to talk about the interdisciplinary necessity of interdisciplinary collaboration and etc., it's not feasible today in Georgia. And I think it's very important to create the process. That's why, in case of UDI structure from Zinobiani, we decided to try to list this building, and it's very difficult today in Georgia to get listing. It's a long story. What we did, we prepared the ID. It's a very simple template with the necessary information, values, etc. We also prepared this measured drawings, and we will ask this non-governmental organization of UDI people, Sakartvelos UDI, I believe, Poles, to be an applicant, because we are sure that in this case it will be much more quicker process, and we mean that it's necessary to create the precedent that this type of building is listed and legally protected. In this case, it's both vernacular architecture, traditional methodology, and what is most important, the very important cultural identity of local UDI people. So we think it could work. Yeah, let me to skip this because the conservation principles is very similar to the Adobe structures as general principles. Only what I wanted to bring here to the vernacular Adobe structure is not the archaeological Adobe monument, which needs the multidisciplinary studies and etc. In case of Adobe structure, we need what Michael is doing. He's doing and learning through doing. And plus, this practice should be created through participation. Otherwise, to give it too much professional approach, I think it won't work. But to create the process that the community is doing it with some professional involvement, maybe from the beginning, okay? So it would be the best idea. So the next yeah. Next, in case of Ilyats-Minda, I think it would be useful to use the urban conservation listing tools we have in Georgia. Yeah, all I said is just to do inventory and to give it a registration as a settlement, and then to perform maybe one showcase restoration on the public building, also with mud. It's the former school. That would be perfect. I can see this project, but maybe not this year. Thank you.